Specialized carrier-based aircraft have always been developed for the needs of the U.S. Navy, with their design being determined by specific operating conditions. However, the FJ Fury fighter became an exception to this rule as it was not originally intended for the Navy but was still adopted. The reason for this unusual decision was the results of the Korean War, during which the Navy command discovered the lack of a fighter on aircraft carriers capable of dealing with the Soviet MiG-15. During the war in Korea, it was found that a new aircraft was needed to successfully combat the MiGs, as the jet fighter Panther significantly lagged behind the MiG in all parameters. The F-86 Sabre fighter showed good results, and the Navy command decided to adopt it. However, the Sabre required modernization. It was necessary to replace certain materials used in the fighter's construction due to their low corrosion resistance. Additionally, the Navy demanded the replacement of the Sabre's 12.5 mm machine guns with 20 mm cannons, which were considered standard armament for carrier-based fighters. North American Aviation chose one of the latest modifications of the Sabre, the F-86E10, specially designed to counter the MiG-15 and possessing increased maneuverability, as the basis for their project. The Navy's Bureau of Aeronautics ordered 3 prototype aircraft under the designation XFJ-2, as well as 300 production aircraft, the FJ-2. The prototype aircraft were built at the company's facility in Columbus, Ohio. 2 of them were designated NA-179, and the third was NA-185. The latter was presented in a fighter-bomber version and had the designation B. The distinctive feature of the XFJ-2B was the inclusion of the Low-Altitude Bombing System, LABS, which was just beginning to be used in the Navy. On December 27, 1951, test pilot Bob Hoover of North American Aviation performed a flight on the NA-185 and ferried it to the Navy's test station in China Lake, California, where weapon system tests were conducted. The purely fighter version, NA-179, XFJ-2, made its first flight in February of 1952. The prototype aircraft had reinforced landing gear, a brake hook, improved bridle attachments, cables for securing the nose gear to the catapult, and folding wings. It was powered by a J47GE2 engine from General Electric with afterburner thrust of 2,722 kilograms. The maximum speed of the aircraft reached 1,090 kilometers per hour at sea level, and its range was 1,593 kilometers. Pilots performed takeoffs and landings using catapults and arresting gear on a carrier deck mock-up. Subsequent flights were carried out from the USS Midway and USS Coral Sea aircraft carriers. During the 60 test flights, it was discovered that the Fury aircraft had insufficient horizontal stabilizers, weak nose landing gear, and a poor arresting hook. Deck-based operations for the FJ-2 proved problematic, leading the Navy's Bureau of Aeronautics to decide to select the Grumman Cougar fighter as a replacement. The first production FJ-2 aircraft made its maiden flight in November 1952, under the command of John Park. The order to North American Aviation was reduced to 200 aircraft, and all production aircraft were handed over to the Marine Corps. North American Aviation continued to work on improving the characteristics of their aircraft and convinced the Navy leadership to accept it as a carrier-based fighter. The main changes affected the wing and engine. The wing, adapted from the F-86F Sabre, had a larger area, a thin profile, and increased fuel tank capacity. The engine was replaced with the J65W4, with a maximum thrust of 3,470 kilograms force. Ultimately, the FJ-3 was accepted into service, but due to its limited range, the production FJ aircraft required in-flight refueling capability. The primary tanker aircraft used was the AJ-2 Savage, and with the use of the Buddy Store system, refueling could be performed from any carrier-based aircraft. The operational use of the aircraft in active military units revealed problems with the power plant's reliability. Additionally, fatigue failure of the turbine disc was observed, causing the blades to penetrate the fuselage and inflict severe damage. Wright, the engine's developer, had to modify the lubrication system and round off the sharp edges of the blades to reduce their penetrating capability. In 1956, a new version of the aircraft, the FJ-3M, equipped with the AIM-9 Sidewinder air-to-air missiles, AAMN-7, was introduced. The next stage of aircraft modernization involved the creation of the fourth modification, featuring a new wing, increased fuel capacity, and an improved J65W16A engine. The aircraft's appearance changed significantly, including the addition of a humped canopy, which allowed for increased fuselage fuel tank volume. The wing and horizontal stabilizer profiles were made thinner to reduce frontal drag. Leading edge slats were removed, and the wing's nose shape was altered for compensation, resulting in improved controllability, although the landing speed increased slightly. After some refinement of the power plant, the aircraft was accepted into service. To enhance the strike capabilities of carrier-based aviation, North American Aviation proposed the FJ-4B fighter-bomber variant equipped with the Low-Altitude Bombing System, LABS. The Fury was involved in combat operations only once in 1962 when two FJ-4B squadrons from the USS Lexington carried out strikes against ground targets in Laos. In August 1955, North American Aviation installed two Rocketdyne AR-1 liquid rocket engines with a thrust of 2,268 kg force on two FJ-4 aircraft. The goal was to create a high-speed carrier-based interceptor for countering Soviet Tupolev 16 and M4 jet bombers. When it was time to retire the Fury, the company proposed replacing it with a new model, the FJ-5. The aircraft bore a resemblance to the experimental YF-107, but the Navy chose the more advanced F-9 Tiger as its replacement.